Hi. I suppose everyone's had spiritual experiences, or what you could call mystical experiences, but we don't often talk about them, and we probably all relate them to a slightly different belief framework. So I just want to talk about my spiritual experiences and see if I can get them into some kind of order. I'm talking about anything that seems to come into my consciousness from somewhere other than the physical world. And during my middle years, probably age about 30 to 50, I tried to deliberately chase these kind of experiences by doing meditation and being in circles and that sort of thing. Nowadays, I'm looking at all those reports of unidentified drones and orbs and otherworldly visitations, and I'm wondering whether they are related to mystical experiences. Are ghosts the same as greys? Are those mysterious orbs really angels or demons coming to interfere with human lives? Do humans have a built-in ability to make a connection with these things? And I think I have to assume we do, although we may not have sharpened up the ability too much due to spending all our lives immersed in the physical. Now, I don't want to be the subject of abduction and experiment by aliens. It seems to me that if the abduction reports are true, they are rather disturbing. They show an imbalance of agency. The aliens have a greater agency than their abductees do. In fact, the humans are just like lab rats. And I wonder, do we always have to be the victims here, just because the aliens have superior technology and communications abilities? Could the lab rat sit up in its cage and challenge the experimenter? I also wonder whether these stories of abduction and experimentation show a response amongst the aliens to possibly having these things inflicted on them by human agents, which seems as though it might be possible when you hear the tales of what goes on in the military-industrial complex and, capturing alien craft and interrogating the occupants, etc. So, according to Luis Elizondo and other numerous whistleblowers, some humans have been contacting the aliens, but they've done it secretly, under the auspices of the governmental or quasi-governmental organisations. They've sent out signals to attract the aliens. Some say they've even worked with aliens, as opposed to working on them. They've probably done both. How did they do it? Well, the key seems to be with remote viewing. Somehow, if you can get your thoughts and judgments and desires out of the way and be completely open and receptive, you can access fields of awareness beyond what your physical senses are privy to. And looking back on what I've attempted to do in my life, I think I do have already some experience of doing this. For example, I've entered competitions without any thought of winning. I would just say, oh, there's a competition, I'll just put an entry in. And I've won prizes that way. The difficulty with competitions is that your natural tendency is to put a sort of emotional effort into it because you want so much to win. But I think this may be the thing that prevents you from winning usually. I've also had a few instances where I've altered my consciousness through meditation. And these are very interesting to me. But what happens, as soon as something begins to happen, I take fright and I withdraw from the experience. After all, why would anyone want to jump into the ocean and swim away from the shore without knowing how they were going to get back again? And yet, how else can you do it? I used to be very much into trying to make contact with my spirit guides. People told me I had spirit guides and it would be good to get in contact with them. I devised a meditation where I would visualize 7 lit candles, a row of 7 going out in front of me. And I would focus on the first candle and then on the next one, This is all in my head with my eyes closed. And then the next one, until I got to the last candle. The idea was that when I went beyond the last candle, I would meet my spirit guide. So I tried this, but unfortunately, as soon as I sensed a presence, I took fright and I jumped back again. Because after all, how did I know it was my spirit guide? How did I know that it meant me no harm? You can't know these things. It's a bit scary. And it's probably more reassuring to do this sort of thing in a group. And I did do group meditations as well, run by several different leaders. The leader would take us on a little imaginary journey, and we would find our guide who would give us a gift, and we would thank them and bring this gift back, and it would have some significance to our life journey. This was not very remarkable, really. Just you did it, you went with the flow. You intuited what you thought the gift might mean. But one time during the meditation, I was flooded with a distinct memory, a very clear memory of having had a dream the previous night that I'd totally forgotten. And in this dream, I could feel 2 disembodied hands wafting through my heart, massaging my heart in a sort of spiritual way. And it was a wonderful feeling of love. And I was very comforted to think that some spirit being might be taking care of me during my sleep that I wasn't even aware of. But a human guide can't necessarily know the right way to proceed. And I have an example in another group where the leader took us on an imaginary journey. I think she made it up as she went along. We were going through a snowy landscape, and we met our friend, and we chatted with our friend for a while, and then we said goodbye and returned to our home. But the only problem was that when I met with my friend, the friend fell down in the snow, and I had a strong rush of grief. This felt quite real, and I didn't know what to do about it. I don't know where that came from. But according to the narrative we were given, I had to leave the friend there in the snow, leave the grief behind and come back. It felt like unfinished business. I didn't feel empowered to say anything about it, and in retrospect, maybe I should have done. I think maybe people who go on group journeys, spirit journeys, should always discuss their experiences afterwards. One time, I paid to join a spiritual workshop, which turned out to be some guy sitting in front of us and playing us a meditation tape, which purported to come from a famous channeled entity. I felt kind of cheated by this because I thought I was going to get tuition rather than just a kind of regurgitated second-hand experience like that. So we were all in this hotel room. We sat in our chairs and closed our eyes and listened to the voice channeling the entity, which was telling us to take a walk through a wood and various details of the wood until we came to a clearing, and in the clearing was a fire. And I think we had to throw our whatever emotions or inhibitions, things that we didn't want in our personality, we had to throw them on the fire. And all our baggage, let's say, we threw it on the fire. Then we were to proceed to a stile. I don't know if there was anything beyond this stile. I know that we had to go up to the stile and climb over it, and that was the end of the meditation. But when I climbed over that stile, I experienced like a vast expansion of my consciousness, and the room where my body was sitting seemed to be quite a long way away. I was aware that there was a whole space here to explore, but that I could get lost in it because everybody else was going back into their bodies and stretching and yawning and leaving the hotel room, and I didn't want to get left behind. So I forced myself. I had to try really quite hard to get back into my body and into my, consciousness of the room. I did feel cheated by that experience, but I was also quite impressed to find that it was possible. I'd always been a prosaic, physical kind of person. I never even thought that I could possibly be hypnotized or anything. And this might have been hypnosis, or it might have been something else. So anyway, now I'm coming to the best experience I ever had. This was a healing room. This was an idea I think might have been from Louise Hay, although I read quite a lot of Channel books and things. I don't remember anymore. New Age literature. The idea was that you go into meditation and you build a specific space, which is your healing room. So you go on a journey through a landscape, you come to a door, which is your special door, you open it, you go inside, and this is your healing space. And then you can imagine whatever things you feel you might need to help you to heal. This was the bit I always had difficulty with. I tried it quite a number of times. And I was also doing affirmations, which was another Louise Hay thing. You say over and over again to yourself, I'm relaxing, I am worthy, I'm letting go of all the tension and fear and, anything you wanted to let go of, really. I just kept saying these things over and over, day after day after day. Anyway, so what happened just after I had learned that my marriage was gone. My husband was not coming back. I was alone with the children, not knowing quite what else to do, what to do with my life. I went into my little meditation space and I took myself into my meditation room. And while I was there, one of my children was calling me, as they always do when you try and meditate. That was one of my problems most of the time. And I thought, this isn't going to work. I can't make it happen anyway. What I'll do is, I'll leave part of myself in the meditation room, and the other part of me will go back to the children and look after them. So I did this in my head. Went out, started looking after the children. I had to get them ready for bed. And later that evening, I was sitting with my back to the radiator in my youngest child's bedroom. I was reading him a bedtime story. But I was gradually becoming aware of this wonderful feeling creeping over me. It's like a sensation of calm and joy and hopefulness and happiness. I imagine a heroin hit might be a bit like that. I've never had one. But I think it was much more splendid and long-lasting than a heroin hit. I was just full of happy energy. I knew that everything would be all right, and I even phoned my soon-to-be ex-husband to tell him so. I went around for 3 days in a state of bliss. I had an involuntary smile on my face, and I'm not somebody who smiles a lot, and I just kept being aware, my goodness, I'm smiling, why am I smiling? It was really weird. Every cell in my body felt as though it was dancing. I felt all the muscles of my back relaxing in a way I'd never felt before, and I hadn't even appreciated that all my back muscles had been so tense until they all let go and were all soft and everything felt pleasurable, wonderful. I went around the kitchen singing, which is rather a weird thing to do when your husband's just left you. So I would say of all my efforts at spirituality, that was the most successful. I've never felt the need to repeat it, but these things do kind of point the way towards developing a greater connection with the life fields beyond the physical. And maybe, dare I say it, to the other beings which may inhabit our space. See you later.